In today's episode, we'll be speaking with celebrity chef Katie Chin. Katie is an award winning cookbook author, caterer, blogger, and culinary ambassador to the National Pediatric Cancer Foundation. She co hosted the national PBS cooking series, Double Happiness, in conjunction with her late mother, renowned chef Leanne Chin. And together they wrote Everyday Chinese Cooking. On her own, Katie wrote 300 best rice cooker recipes and the bestsellers Everyday Thai Cooking, Everyday Chinese Cookbook, and Katie Chin's Global Family Cookbook. Her numerous appearances on national television include The Kelly Clarkson Show, Live with Kelly and Mark, The Today Show, Cutthroat Kitchen, Beat Bobby Flay, Supermarket Stakeout, Battle of the Decades, and as a guest judge on Food Network's Iron Chef America. In 2013, Katie was a featured chef at the annual Easter egg roll at the White House under the Obama administration. Katie's currently performing her award winning one woman show, Holy Shiitake, A Walk Star is Born. Her next show is on January 16 at the Whitefire Theater in Sherman Oaks. And act fast to get your tickets, as her shows in Honolulu next month are already sold out. Welcome, Katie, to the Expressions of Leadership podcast. It's great to have you join us.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle.
So, you have had such a fascinating life journey, and you've taken on many different leading roles as entertainer, executive, chef, and philanthropist. How have these various roles shaped who you are and what you believe as a leader?
Well, I like to say I've had 9 lives, and people are like, "How do you know so many different people?" Well, I've had like 5 different careers and 3 different husbands, so I've just collected people along the way. And I think what I've learned the most is that you just in life have to continually be nimble and continually ask questions and be open to learning and not get stuck in your ways. Some people are built differently than others, obviously. I'm a person, I guess I just was born this way. I'm constantly seeking new adventures. I'm constantly seeking fun. I'm constantly seeking diversity in my life, and that can take so many different forms. And I guess what happened to me is when I was working in my corporate career, because I wasn't a chef the whole time. It's a whole long story, but everything I learned about life and cooking, I learned in the kitchen from my late mother, Leanne Chin. So I was in a corporate career, and I'm going to touch on a lot of different things, but when you are AAPI, you're expected to become a doctor, a lawyer, a professor, and all of my siblings became those things. So when I chose a non-traditional career, meaning I worked in film and TV marketing, my parents had no idea what that meant. So I like to call it, I had OAAG, overachieving Asian gene. So I felt like, I had to.
I hear you. I understand that,
Yeah,
Jean. I
you
think I
could
have it.
totally you can relate, yes. I felt like I had to work that much harder to prove to them that I'd be okay, and so that they wouldn't worry about me. Um, so it was funny though, because my father, I was finally had become an executive at Disney, and I heard my dad talking to his friend, and he was like, "Oh, Katie, she's fine. She works at Disneyland." I'm like, "I don't work at Disneyland." I'm not scooping up ice cream at Carnation Gardens, okay? Anyway, with all that being said, I think, in my corporate career, as far as leadership goes, I think I was just like, have to be a good corporate soldier, have to do what everybody asks me to do, have to set this great example, have to, sometimes be at odds with the way I was raised, being Chinese American, to have a strong voice in corporate America, especially in the entertainment. Really hard for me. And actually, what I did is I pretended I was Waverly from Joy Luck Club, who was the character who was an advertising executive, and she was very confident. She was very successful. I kept pretending to be Waverly because I didn't really feel like I had the tools in my toolkit, just the way I had been raised in terms of, speaking my voice, being strong, being confrontational, being powerful, but that I had chosen this career where I was forced to do that. So I honestly sort of felt like it wasn't right for me eventually. And then in my mid 30s, I completely changed my life. And I feel like I'm actually an artist and that was, that's my path. So from there, I had to really transition from being an executive to being an entrepreneur and a chef. And that was really extremely challenging in so many ways, but so eye opening. And, it also just goes to show you people can change, right? You think that you can't, but it's never too late to change, to learn different leadership skills. I was suddenly thrust into this back breaking physical job of being a caterer and then all of a sudden managing teams in a different way, but similar, I guess, similar values and similar, methods to really motivate people and get people to do things for you.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you mentioned values. What values guide your leadership decisions and your actions?
Well, I always say, what would Leanne do? My mother, because she was a woman that had incredible integrity. She was a very honest person. She led with a lot of integrity. She was a very forthright person. She was a very trusting and trustful person. So I try to think about that whenever life is just a series of choices all the time, right? And I just think about, oh, if I'm in a tough position, what would she do? How would she approach it? So I think integrity is so key. I think listening, being a great team builder is so important. Empathy with your team, for sure. Um, I think playfulness is really important, but you got to get the job done. So people say, like, in my catering business, oh, I actually got copied on an email that somebody sent to somebody that was going to join our team. She was like, "Oh, she's really, great and fun, but she does slip into her no nonsense mode." Yes. But I will say, having worked at Disney, that really gave me a lot of tools that I do use today in everything that I do in terms of discipline. Delegation is so important, and expecting excellence. So of course I do, I expect a lot from my employees, but at the same time I treat them like a family, because people, they want to feel like they're heard, they're being listened to, they're being honored and appreciated. um, so I try to make it fun, but we work super hard.
Mhm. And what is the most challenging situation you've had as a leader?
I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, probably as a mom, because
Absolutely.
that does require leadership
It
skills
does.
and juggling and setting an example and trying to help your child, but not fix their
Mhm.
problems. I will say, like, as far as being a chef, leadership wise, I think it was the first time I had this huge event and I had to manage 30 people at once. So that's, and also, um, not trying to do everything, because you can't. You can't do everything well. So again, finding the right people has been so critical to my business. So instead of hiring 20 servers at once and trying to, guide them on the spot while it's happening, but then also trying to manage the kitchen, I found some amazing people that, they corral everybody. I let them do their job. So trusting in people that know what they're doing. But when you're a type A perfectionist, it's hard to do that, especially in the beginning.
Mhm. Well, what do you look for in your employees, your team members?
I look for a similar spirit of excellence. I look for people that are great with people. I look for people that are always willing to learn. I look for people that, they just will go to the next step. They will think ahead, anticipate, ask questions, but then you know what to do next. So, not always easy to find in this generation of millennials, not to generalize or stereotype, um, not always easy to find. Again, not to generalize or stereotype in Los Angeles when people are multi hyphenates sometimes and, have acting careers or writing careers and maybe just think about their catering job as, oh, it's my side hustle. Um, I'd rather be doing something else. So, a lot of us have creative pursuits. I do too. And honestly, as I, was building my chef career, I did consult on the side in marketing and promotions. And then I would say, well, it's like my waitressing job. I'm a really good waitress. It's a means to an end. It gives me the freedom to pursue all of my other chef stuff. But while I'm doing that, I'm going to do it 110%. And I'm going to give it my all. And I'm not going to, appear like, oh my God, she's distracted because she's worrying about the 500 pounds of bean sprouts she needs to order. But I was doing conference calls, like sitting on sacks of flour in a commercial kitchen.
What a great image. That's so funny. So you talked about this idea of being creative, and you certainly have to be creative as a chef as well. You have to be creative in your job when you were also an executive at Disney, I'm sure. What strategies do you use to foster innovation and creativity?
I think playing is so important, whether you're an executive or an entrepreneur or an art, whatever you are. It's important to, I think, find ways to feed your creativity. For some people, it might be karaoke. That is for me. And actually, my husband and I, we formed a band during COVID. It's called Never Too Late because we were all in our 50s and all wanted to perform musically, some of us beginners, some of us more seasoned. And that's been so wonderful because it's freeing for your mind. Because when you're singing in a band, you're not thinking about anything else.
Hmm.
For my mother, she was a gambler. She loved to gamble. She
Hmm.
was a high roller. When because she had been a seamstress making 50 cents an hour and became like this restaurant empress. Like it's really a remarkable story as a side note. Anyway, she realized the only place, her happy place was gambling because again, she couldn't think about anything else. But she was also,
Hmm.
I guess an adrenaline junkie like me, like the win. Oh my God, she loved the win. Communing with nature is so important. I need to do more of that. Meditating, yoga. Um, those things are so important. And for me as a chef, it's important to get out there, to go to different restaurants, to travel. Travel is so important. Um, and just allow for some stillness to allow some of that fresh thinking to enter your brain.
Hmm. And then do you experiment much when you're also just in the kitchen? You've got all these different ingredients, or do you kind of know what you're going to make ahead of time?
Well, if I'm catering, I know what I'm going to be making, but just cooking for me and my family, or sometimes happy accidents happen, obviously, because you can't control what's going on. Okay, back to a challenging leadership. I was by myself, but I'm going to tell this funny story really quickly. One time I was catering a photo shoot. It ended up being for Playboy. I had no idea it was for Playboy. It was on a ranch. Okay. They're off shooting the naked model somewhere else. They were all left on golf carts. I'm by myself in front of a barn. All of a sudden, this cow comes out of the barn and starts eating the food on the table. And I'm like freaking out. I grab all the food, I jump in my car, and then another cow comes out and they start rocking my car and licking the windows. And I'm like, oh my God, oh my. It was the craziest thing that had ever happened to me. And then I end up having to go feed like whatever food I salvaged. I'm like feeding naked model. And she's like, "Oh, you're the only woman here. Tell me about everything that happened." I'm like, oh my God, this would never have happened to me if I was sitting at my desk at Fox. Anyway, okay, so this is also like a lesson in just keeping your calm, just taking a breath, keeping calm. It's all going to be fine. And especially in catering, like as long as your client doesn't know what's going on, they don't care. You just got to never let them see you sweat and then just like take a breath. It's going to be fine. Find a solution. I can't remember what the original question was.
That's
Oh, yeah,
completely.
happy accident. So one time I was catering a small dinner party with Nate Berkus, the designer, who apparently my mother knew when he was a baby in a playpen because his mother worked with my mother at a dress shop. I didn't even know he was from Minneapolis, and I just happened to meet him. And then, we became friends. So I invited him over for a dinner party, and I was trying to make these dumplings. I was at my friend's house who hosted it, with dough from scratch, and the dough was just not coming together. And I was like freaking out. And I had my roast duck that I shredded, and I, tossed it with hoisin sauce and ginger and scallions to put in the dumplings. And I'm like, and my husband had to be with me. And I just had this like brainstorm. What if we made Peking duck nachos? And my husband like found some blue corn tortilla chips, ran over, and we just dressed it up with hoisin sauce and scallions, and people went crazy. And now it's, a staple on my catering menu. So you just have to be willing to be flexible as well.
Yeah, wow. That creativity and flexibility created something that a lot of people actually enjoy.
Yes, because you get that bite of like having Peking duck, but it's not a huge commitment with that big bun. You know what I mean? Or a
Mhm,
big pancake. It's just like,
mhm,
ooh, a nice bite, a crispy bite, which
mhm.
people love when they're, holding a cocktail glass at the same time.
How do you maintain your own growth and learning as a leader?
I try to keep up with trends in the culinary industry. I try to be open to new ways of thinking. I'm constantly talking to people about ways I could potentially improve. This whole new venture of mine in performing a one woman show, this has been like a whole new world for me because I am not a trained actor. I was not a playwright. Um, and there was just something telling me to do this show, really to honor my mother's culinary legacy more than anything. But people have asked me, like, why not a book? Why not a documentary? Why not a film? And, this show is becoming a launch pad for some of these other things, hopefully. Um, so I, at a much, later stage of my life, just became open to, I don't know everything. I think we feel secure in thinking that, like, I know what I know. I don't, want to venture into something scary because it's a lot easier and safer to stay over here. Like everything I've learned, everything I know. Um, but it completely changed my life, stripped me down. I worked with a director. She kicked my ass. I almost had a nervous breakdown. No, I'm just kidding. Kind of cried the night before, almost got in my car and drove to Mexico the day of the show. It was so terrifying to me. But I'm just, here to say, like, much later in life, I took something on that has completely changed my life because, you know, I share a lot in the show. I share a lot of family history. It's filled with pathos and it's filled with humor. But there's a lot in the show that, I had to expose my vulnerability. Some may say some family secrets. But, Brene Brown, what she talks about when she speaks of shame, when you release shame, you take away all its power. And by doing this, I feel like I have nothing to hide. I feel much more confident about who I am. I don't care about what people think anymore. And that has been such a powerful lesson because when you take that away, you have freedom. You have freedom to do whatever you want and live the life you're meant to live.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, that sounds like a truly great piece of advice that I'm sure we would all love to be able to do, to have that freedom to not worry about what other people are thinking or what other people are saying, so that you can just authentically own your own leadership and live your true life.
Well, and let's just think about this for a second. Most people are thinking about themselves, they're not thinking about you, right? You go to
Yeah.
a cocktail
Good
party,
point.
you're worried about, like, oh, maybe I'm not where I want to be right now. Maybe I didn't achieve this, that, and the other thing that I told people about, and now I'm embarrassed. If they're judging you, they're not your friend anyway.
Mhm.
And who cares? Right. And we
Mhm.
learn so much more from our failures, sometimes more so than our successes, because,
Mhm.
Your path is not a straight road, as we all know. So that's been really powerful for me, and I think has helped me be a leader as well.
So I'd like to give some sort of advice to our listeners, although I think we've gotten a lot of advice already from you during this show. If someone were navigating the same path as you, what guideposts would you set for them?
I would say it's an ever changing journey. So you have to be kind to yourself because things aren't necessarily going to go as planned. I would say you have to check in with yourself. I would say set small goals every week because I think it can be quite intimidating to say, I need to do this by 3 years from now. I need to have my own TV show. I need to have a catering business that's, grossing $1 million a year. I need to write 5 cookbooks by the time I'm 45. Those are all very overwhelming um, tasks and it will paralyze you. What I've also learned is, like we talked about, ask for help, find people that know what they're doing. So I have three initiatives based from my one woman show. I have a team working on TV development to adapt the show for television. I have another team helping me, you know, uh, adapt this as a memoir collection of essays in the publishing realm. I have another team working on adapting it for a full run off Broadway and other cities. All sounds super overwhelming, but I have experts helping me. And these people not only are in it with me, but they're my accountability coaches. So I think whatever you're working on, find an accountability coach. What I learned is I had three friends helping me try to finish my book proposal because writing a collection of essays, memoir book proposal is very different than writing a cookbook proposal. So I
Mhm.
had three friends helping me, but they were terrible. They let me get away with murder. I'd be like, I didn't get to that thing. Oh, it's fine. So I actually hired somebody. I mean, I don't pay them a ton of money, but it's like hiring a personal trainer.
Mhm.
You're going to show up if you pay somebody. So
Mhm.
that was also just a mindset change in terms of like, okay, I'm paying them. I have to show up. I have to do my homework. And then I also found somebody that, they know what they're doing too, clearly. And I just, didn't want to let them down. So that was also very helpful. So setting clear goals, but also manageable goals every day. If you're a worry wart, I tend to like overthink everything. Like sit down every morning, write down what you're worried about, or also known as morning pages from The Artist's Way. A lot of people are familiar with this book, but there's something called the morning pages in which you wake up every morning. The first thing you do, handwritten, you write down 3 pages of just whatever stream of consciousness in your mind. So there's no inner critic. That's also very freeing and also helps really foster creativity by doing that. Um, I would say it's just my life is totally insane. So it's really important to prioritize your goals. Again, take your vision board. Ooh, awesome! I want to achieve all of this by the next year. But then take that vision board and every week, Monday morning, what 5 goals can you achieve that week? And then it's okay. Maybe you won't get to all 5. Cross the 2 out that you did, then add the 3 to the next Monday list. And I think that's been really completely overwhelmed.
Mhm. That's very helpful. Thank you very much. And some really solid, great advice. So, our fun question for today is, what cartoon character would you like to hang out with and why?
The cartoon character that pops into my mind immediately is Betty Boop because I think she just seems so fun. And she also doesn't seem like a character that cares about what people think, right? She
Yeah.
seems like she was a trailblazer, uh, you know, good time girl.
Mhm.
And just wants to have fun. I love to have fun. I try to find fun in everything that I do. Um, and it keeps me youthful. It keeps me sharp creatively. And I feel like when I was in my old, corporate career, I wasn't having as much fun.
Mm.
Everybody's different, right? But I know she just speaks to me.
I hear you. I loved Betty Boop. As a child, she was one of my favorite characters. Just thought she was so fun. So I
You'd want
completely
you'd want
understand
to
it.
invite her to your dinner party,
You
right?
do. You think she would be absolutely one of the best guests and
Yes.
certainly light up the
Yes.
room as well.
Totally, totally, and wouldn't eat anything or drink anything.
Well, thank you so much, Katie, for being here, for sharing your experiences and your thoughts on leadership. It was such a pleasure having you join us on the Expressions of Leadership podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a joy, and I can't wait to see you again soon. And I wish you continued success. And I can't wait to hear all your guests on your upcoming podcasts.
Oh, thank you so much, Katie. And I'm looking forward to seeing your show on the
Oh,
16th. Woohoo!
thank you.
And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in and spending your time with us today.